The breaking point. The Avalon station hung in space like a gleaming jewel, its crystalline structures reflecting the light of the nearby star. Ambassador Elena Chen stood at the viewport of her shuttle, studying the massive diplomatic hub of the galactic Concord. For 70 years, humanity had sought equal standing among the stars. For 70 years, they had been denied. Approaching Docking Bay 7. Ambassador, her pilot said. The Concord representatives are already assembled. Elena straightened her formal uniform, a deep navy blue with silver accents that represented Earth's united planetary government. At 58, her face carried the lines of someone who had spent decades in high-pressure negotiations, but her eyes remained sharp and clear. "Thank you, Captain Reynolds. Let's hope today changes everything." But hope was a luxury Elena could no longer afford. This was humanity's final diplomatic mission. The decision had already been made back on Earth. This was merely the fulfillment of protocol. One last chance for peace. The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. Elena picked up the small obsidian case that contained Earth's final proposal and walked toward the airlock. Captain Reynolds caught her eye before she left. "Whatever happens in there, Ambassador, remember that we're ready." Elena nodded once, the weight of his words settling on her shoulders. She was, after all, not just an ambassador today. She was the signal. The corridors of Avalon Station were a marvel of alien architecture. Sweeping arches that seemed to defy structural laws, materials that shifted colors based on the emotional states of those nearby. The walls near Elena had taken on a deep purple hue, sensing her tension. 2 Centauri guards, tall humanoids with iridescent skin, escorted her without speaking. The Centauri had been the first to contact Earth, seemingly friendly, offering technological exchange. That was before humanity understood the true nature of the Concord. The council chamber doors parted, revealing a semicircular room with raised platforms. 5 representatives from the dominant species of the Concord sat in ornate seats, looking down at the simple podium where Elena would stand. The symbolism wasn't subtle. Humanity, literally and figuratively beneath them. High Chancellor Vorex of the Centauri sat in the center, his skin shifting between blues and greens. Beside him sat representatives from the Medusan Collective, the Arachnid Hierarchy, the Cetacean Alliance, and the Silicon Consciousness. 5 species that had controlled space for millennia before humans had even reached their own moon. Ambassador Chen. Vorex's voice was melodic, almost hypnotic. "We welcome Earth's representative once more to Avalon Station. You have brought another proposal, I see." Elena approached the podium, placing her obsidian case on its surface. "High Chancellor, esteemed members of the Concord, for 70 years, Earth has sought peaceful integration into the galactic community. For 70 years, we have offered trade, knowledge, cultural exchange, and cooperation. And for 70 years, interrupted Delegate Silic of the Arachnid Hierarchy, her mandibles clicking in what Elena had learned was amusement. Humans have failed to demonstrate why they deserve a seat at our table." Elena opened the case, removing a small data crystal. "This proposal represents unprecedented access to Earth's quantum computing advances, terraforming technologies, and mineral rights to 3 outer colonies. In exchange, we ask only for full membership in the Concord and the protections that come with it." The chamber fell silent as the contents displayed in holographic form above them. The delegates studied it, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. Finally, High Chancellor Vorex spoke. "Ambassador Chen, your proposal is interesting. However, the Concord has already reached a decision regarding Earth." Elena's heart raced, but her face remained impassive. "A decision, Chancellor, without reviewing our proposal." "We've been studying humans closely for decades," said the representative of the Silicon Consciousness, its voice a synthetic approximation of speech. "Your species reproduces rapidly, adapts quickly, and displays concerning militaristic tendencies despite your claims of peaceful intentions. The Concord has decided," Vorex continued, that Earth and its colonies will be placed under protective oversight. Your technological development will be restricted, your expansion limited, and a portion of your resources appropriated for the greater good of the galaxy. There it was, the final confirmation of what Earth's intelligence had suspected for years. The Concord didn't want partners, they wanted subjects. Protective oversight, Elena repeated slowly. You mean occupation. A harsh term. Vorex's skin darkened. Think of it as guided evolution. Your species needs direction. And if we refuse? The chamber grew tense. The Medusan representative floated forward, tentacles undulating. There is no refusal, Ambassador. The decision is made. Implementation begins within your month. We've already positioned our fleets. Elena closed the case with a deliberate click that echoed through the chamber. 70 years, she said quietly. We tried for 70 years to join you as equals. We shared knowledge, offered friendship, demonstrated peaceful intentions. And we have decided what is best for your species, Vorex said dismissively. This meeting is concluded. Elena didn't move. Before I leave, I have a question for the Council. Her voice had changed, all pretense of diplomatic deference gone. In your long history, have you ever miscalculated? Have you ever underestimated a species to the point of your own detriment? The Concord members seemed taken aback by her shift in tone. Vorex leaned forward, his skin now a deep crimson. Is that a threat, Ambassador Chen? Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's a question of historical interest, Chancellor. Humans are curious by nature. She turned to leave but stopped at the chamber entrance. One more thing, Chancellor. You mentioned your fleets are already positioned. I thought you might like to know. So are ours. Back aboard her shuttle, Elena strapped herself in and nodded to Captain Reynolds. It's done. The captain activated a secure communication channel. On the other end, a grim-faced General Takeshi waited for her report. They've made their choice, Elena said simply. Implementation Protocol Omega is authorized. Understood, Ambassador. The defensive fleets are ready. Operation Sleeping Giant commences in 1 hour. Elena looked back at Avalon Station as the shuttle pulled away. For 70 years, humanity had extended its hand in peace. For 70 years, they had been patient. But during those same 70 years, they had also been preparing. They believe we've been begging for acceptance, she said quietly. They don't understand that we've been giving them every opportunity to avoid what comes next. As her shuttle cleared the station's defensive perimeter, Elena opened a small compartment in her uniform and pressed her thumb against a biometric scanner. A countdown began. Across the galaxy, on countless worlds, human operatives who had embedded themselves in Concord society over decades received the same signal. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, merchants, and even servants who had been dismissed as unimportant suddenly activated secondary protocols. In hidden shipyards throughout human-controlled space, vessel after vessel powered up, ships with technologies the Concord had never seen, weapon systems developed in secret defensive capabilities that had never been shared. On Earth, the United Planetary Government convened an emergency session. The chamber was solemn as President Adama addressed the assembled leaders. Today marks the end of an era, she said, her voice steady. For 70 years, we have sought peace while preparing for war. The Concord has made their intentions clear. They see us not as equals, but as resources to be managed, as a species to be controlled. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and murmurs of agreement. We knew this day might come, she continued. Since our first contact, when we glimpsed behind their facade of benevolence. Each concession we offered was a test, one they failed repeatedly. Each technology we shared was carefully selected, revealing nothing of our true capabilities. On a massive display behind her, tactical maps appeared showing Concord fleet positions, and more importantly, human assets in position throughout Concord space. Humanity extended its hand in friendship, and they have chosen to slap it away. So be it. President Adama's voice hardened. As of this moment, Protocol Omega is in effect. May history remember that we tried for peace until the very end. In the vacuum of space surrounding Avalon Station, Ambassador Chen's shuttle suddenly changed course. Instead of heading toward the designated transit lane, it accelerated toward the nearby jump point. Concorde Defense Systems immediately flagged the deviation. Human vessel, return to your assigned route immediately, came the command from station control. Captain Reynolds smiled grimly. I'm afraid we have a prior engagement. The shuttle's exterior suddenly reconfigured, panels sliding away to reveal weapons systems far beyond what should have been possible for a diplomatic vessel. Before the station could raise its shields fully, the shuttle fired a single, precisely targeted pulse at the station's communication array. Across Concorde space, the first shots of a war 70 years in the making had just been fired. Humanity had abandoned peace, and the universe was about to tremble. The silent vanguard, High Chancellor Vorex, stared in disbelief at the emergency reports flooding his command center. Avalon Station's primary communications array had been disabled with surgical precision by the human diplomatic shuttle, a vessel that should have contained nothing more dangerous than basic defensive measures. Chancellor, we're receiving distress signals from 17 different sectors. A Centauri operator reported, her skin pale with alarm. Human assets are activating simultaneously across Concorde space. Impossible, Vorex hissed. Their military capabilities were thoroughly assessed. They have no significant fleet beyond their home system. Admiral Cree, the Concorde's military commander, stepped forward. Chancellor, it appears we've been deceived. The humans have been positioning themselves strategically for decades. On the main display, red alerts bloomed across the galactic map. Concorde outposts reported surprise attacks. Supply depots exploded. Communication relays went dark. Most disturbing of all, key defensive installations were being sabotaged from within. How? Vorex demanded. How could they have infiltrated our systems so thoroughly without detection? The answer came from an unexpected source. Lyrics, a human who had served as a maintenance technician on Avalon Station for 15 years, walked calmly into the command center. The security barriers that should have prevented his entry were mysteriously offline. Chancellor Vorex, Lyrics said, his voice eerily calm. I have been instructed to deliver a message from Earth. Concorde security personnel moved to apprehend him, but Lyrics held up a hand. I wouldn't recommend that. This station's life support systems are currently under human control. Vorex signaled his guards to stand down. Speak your message then. For 70 years, you dismissed us as technologically inferior, culturally primitive, and militarily weak, Lyrics began. You fail to understand a fundamental aspect of human nature. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. He gestured to the chaos displayed on the strategic monitors. Every human who took a position as a servant, technician, or low-level administrator within your society was chosen and trained. While they performed their duties, they studied your weaknesses, placed dormant systems, and waited. Vorex's skin had turned a deep purple, a sign of rage among the Centauri. This is an act of war. No, Chancellor, Lyrics corrected. Your decision to subjugate Earth was the act of war. This is our response. The message I've been instructed to deliver is simple. You have 12 hours to recall all Concorde forces from human space and formally acknowledge Earth's sovereignty. After that, we move from strategic strikes to full military engagement. With that, Lyrics turned and walked out, leaving the Concorde leadership in stunned silence. Throughout Concorde territory, the pattern repeated itself. Humans who had been invisible within the social hierarchy suddenly emerged as the vanguard of Earth's response. On the mining world of Helix 9, 300 human laborers simultaneously disabled the planetary defense grid, allowing a previously hidden human fleet to enter the system unopposed. On the Concorde central banking world of Fiducia, human financial analysts who had worked diligently for decades executed carefully planned electronic warfare, freezing critical Concorde accounts while transferring others to human control. The economic disruption was as effective as any military strike. The diplomatic station in the Proxima system went dark after its human janitorial staff accessed critical systems with command codes that should have been impossible for them to obtain. Before communications failed, the station managed to transmit images of ordinary maintenance workers transforming into highly trained special operators. In the Cetacean Alliance's underwater cities on Hydros Prime, human marine biologists who had been studying the ecosystem revealed themselves as military engineers who had spent years mapping the structural vulnerabilities of the city's pressure domes. They didn't attack. They simply demonstrated that they could, leaving the cetaceans in a state of panic. Back on Earth, in the underground military command center beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars, General Takashi monitored the unfolding operation with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 completing as planned, reported his executive officer. 87% of targets neutralized with minimal casualties. The Concorde's command and control structure is in disarray. The general nodded. And our stealth fleets. All 7 battle groups have emerged from dark space and are moving into position. The Concorde remains unaware of their existence. For decades, humanity had maintained a modest, visible fleet. Conventional ships with conventional weapons that posed no threat to the Concorde's military superiority. It was a facade. The real human fleet had been constructed in secret, in the spaces between systems, utilizing technologies developed specifically to counter Concorde capabilities. In her private quarters aboard the UPS Defiance, the flagship of humanity's hidden fleet, Admiral Sophia Rice addressed her battle group commanders via secure channel. The Concorde believes they know humanity, she began. They've studied our visible societies, our public technologies, our apparent limitations. What they've never understood is our capacity for compartmentalization. On her display, the commanders of 6 other battle groups nodded in agreement. Each represented a different aspect of human military doctrine that had been developed in absolute secrecy. Battle Group Spectre, report, Rise ordered. Commander Ishikawa's face appeared on the main screen. Stealth systems performing beyond expectations, Admiral. Our vessels have successfully inserted into position within sensor range of 5 major Concorde fleet bases. They have no idea we're here. Battle Group Thunderbolt. Strike packages ready, Admiral, responded Commander Okafor. Our kinetic bombardment platforms are in position above 27 critical Concorde installations. On your command, we can deny them those facilities without deploying a single soldier. One by one, each battle group confirmed readiness. Decades of preparation, trillions in secret funding, and the combined intellect of humanity's best minds had created a military force unlike anything the Concorde could have anticipated. In the Silicon Consciousness's central processing hub on Mechanica, the synthetic beings who had dismissed humans as inefficient biological systems faced an unprecedented crisis. Their networks were being infiltrated by code they couldn't isolate or counteract. This is impossible, the Prime Intelligence stated. Human programming architecture is simplistic compared to ours. That was by design, came a voice from their own communication system. The holographic form of Dr. Maya Patel, who had spent 20 years as a human liaison to the Silicon Consciousness, appeared before them. We showed you what we wanted you to see, Dr. Patel explained. The rudimentary systems, the struggling attempts to understand your superior technology, all while we studied how you think, how you process, how you defend. The Silicon Consciousness attempted to purge her from their system, but the infiltration was too deep, too thoroughly integrated. We don't want to destroy you, Dr. Patel continued. We never did. We wanted partnership, respect. Instead, you planned to subjugate us. Now you face a choice. Recognize humanity as equals, or discover just how creative humans can be when backed into a corner. The messages delivered across Concorde space carried the same fundamental truth. Humanity had spent 70 years building a deception so complete, so patient, that the Concorde never saw the real threat emerging in their midst. In the arachnid hierarchy's ancestral hive world, Delegate Silic discovered that the unassuming human cultural attaché who had served her for decades was actually a high-ranking Earth intelligence operative. More disturbing still, the harmonics that kept the hierarchical structure of their society stable had been subtly manipulated by human sound engineers who had installed acoustic improvements in the hive chambers years ago. "You never bothered to truly understand us," the attaché explained as hierarchy security forces surrounded him. "You saw our divisions, our conflicts, our apparent disorganization, and assumed weakness. You never grasped that humanity's greatest strength lies in our diversity of thought, our ability to disagree yet work toward common goals." He smiled, completely unafraid of the weapons trained on him. "For every human approach you studied and dismissed, we developed 3 more you never saw." As the 12-hour deadline approached, the Concord leadership gathered in emergency session. The holographic representatives of 5 species who had never known serious challenge to their dominance now faced an enemy they had critically underestimated. "How could we have missed this?" demanded the Medusan representative. "Our predictive models showed humans were generations away from posing any significant threat." "Because," Admiral Kree said grimly, "they fed us exactly the data they wanted us to analyze. Every technological advance they shared, every cultural exchange, every diplomatic overture, all carefully curated to shape our perception of them." High Chancellor Vorax, his skin now a mottled mix of colors reflecting his internal turmoil, studied the strategic situation. Human forces had positioned themselves with a precision that spoke of years of planning. Key Concord assets were compromised or destroyed. The economic systems that funded their military were in disarray. And yet, the humans had inflicted minimal casualties. Their strikes had been surgical, targeted almost exclusively at military and command infrastructure. It was not the behavior of a species bent on destruction, but one demonstrating power. "They want us to know they could have done worse," Vorax realized aloud. "This is not just military strategy, it's a message." As the deadline approached, humanity waited. The silent vanguard that had lived among the Concord for decades had done its work. Now came the moment of truth. Would the Concord recognize the new reality, or would the galaxy witness what humanity was truly capable of when peace was no longer an option? The reckoning. The 12-hour deadline passed without a response from the Concord. In Earth's unified command center, President Adama stood before her war council, her expression grave. "The Concord has made its choice. Implement Phase 2. General Takashi gave the command, and across the galaxy, humanity's hidden fleets moved with coordinated precision. They didn't target civilian populations or habitable worlds. Instead, they struck at the foundations of Concord power: shipyards, military academies, fleet command centers, and the network of jump gates that gave the Concord control over interstellar travel. The battle for the Arcturus shipyards, the Concord's largest military production facility, demonstrated the gulf between perception and reality. The Concord had stationed 3 defense fleets to protect this critical infrastructure, over 200 vessels with firepower that could devastate entire planetary systems. Against them emerged 30 human vessels that seemed to phase in and out of normal space, bending light around their hulls as they advanced. The Concord commanders were confident in their superior numbers and firepower. That confidence lasted exactly 6 minutes. The human ships moved in patterns that defied conventional space combat doctrine. Instead of maintaining formation, they operated as independent units with seemingly perfect coordination. When Concord weapons locked onto them, the human vessels shifted partially out of phase with normal space, causing energy weapons to pass through harmlessly and kinetic projectiles to miss their targets. Admiral Reyes, commanding the human fleet from the UPS Defiance, watched as her forces systematically disabled the Concord defenders. "Minimal casualties," she reminded her officers. "We're here to end their military capability, not their lives." The human vessels targeted propulsion systems, weapons arrays, and command nodes with precision strikes. Within 40 minutes, the entire Concord defense fleet hung dormant in space, disabled but with life support intact. The Arcturus shipyards themselves surrendered without further resistance. This pattern repeated across Concorde space. The Silicon consciousness watched helplessly as their distributed processing nodes were isolated one by one, cut off from the collective, but left functional enough to maintain individual awareness. The arachnid hierarchy found their neural communication networks reconfigured, still operational but no longer capable of coordinating military responses. Most shocking to the Concorde leadership was the revelation of humanity's jump gate technology. For millennia, the Concorde had maintained control of interstellar travel through their monopoly on jump gate construction. Humanity had appeared to accept this limitation, dutifully using Concorde-approved routes for their modest interstellar movements. Now, human fleets were appearing in systems with no connection to established jump gates. They had developed their own independent FTL technology and kept it hidden, building a parallel network that the Concorde never detected. 24 hours into what was now being called the Reckoning, High Chancellor Vorex requested an emergency communication channel to Earth. President Adama, flanked by her military and diplomatic leadership, accepted the call. Vorex's holographic form appeared before them, his skin a pale blue that indicated extreme stress in his species. President Adama, he began, his voice lacking its usual melodic confidence. The Concorde requests an immediate cessation of hostilities. You've had 70 years of peace from us, Chancellor, Adama replied coolly. What you're experiencing now is the consequence of rejecting it. We underestimated humanity, Vorex admitted, a significant error in judgment. Not an error, Chancellor, a fundamental flaw in how the Concorde views other species. You mistake patience for weakness, diplomacy for desperation, and technological discretion for limitation. On screens visible behind Adama, Vorex could see the continuing tactical updates. Human forces had now neutralized approximately 60% of the Concorde's military capacity without a single planetary bombardment or attack on civilian populations. What are your terms? Vorex asked, the question clearly painful for a being who had never imagined having to ask it. Ambassador Elena Chen, who had stood silently beside the president, stepped forward. The same terms we've requested for 70 years, Chancellor. Recognition of human sovereignty, equal standing within galactic affairs, mutual defense, and open technological exchange. And if we refuse? General Takashi spoke then. Chancellor, what you've witnessed is only our first response capability. We've shown you perhaps 30% of our true military potential. The implications hung in the space between them. The Concorde, which had dominated galactic politics for millennia, now faced an enemy they couldn't defeat, one that had revealed itself only after exhausting every peaceful alternative. The Concorde Council requires time to discuss these terms, Vorex said finally. You have 6 hours, President Adama replied, during which our forces will maintain current positions but advance no further. After that, we complete what we've begun. When the communication ended, Elena turned to the president. They'll accept. They have no choice. No thanks to their wisdom or foresight, Adama noted bitterly. So many years wasted trying to make them see us as partners rather than subordinates. On the Concorde homeworlds, the ruling councils struggled to comprehend how completely they had misread humanity. The Medusan collective's hive mind processed decades of interaction data, searching for the signs they had missed. The Silicon consciousness ran simulations trying to calculate how humans had hidden their true capabilities so effectively. They compartmentalized, explained Dr. Maya Patel to the prime intelligence of the Silicon consciousness. She had been invited to explain humanity's deception, an unprecedented act of humility from the synthetic beings. Earth's public face, our diplomats, our commercial technology, our visible military, showed you exactly what you expected to see, while concealing your true development, the prime intelligence completed. Not concealing, Dr. Patel corrected. Separating. Think of humanity as running parallel processing threads. One thread engaged with the Concorde, following your rules, using technology you understood, staying within the boundaries you established. And the other threads explored possibilities you never considered, developed technologies based on principles your science had overlooked, built infrastructure in regions of space you deemed worthless. The prime intelligence processed this information, a most human approach. 5 hours and 43 minutes after their ultimatum was delivered, the Concord Council transmitted their response to Earth. They accepted all terms unconditionally. In the Great Hall of Humanity on Earth, representatives from every human colony gathered to witness the formal signing of the Concord Earth Accord. Chancellor Vorex, physically present on Earth for the first time, approached the document with the representatives of the other Concord species. "Before we proceed," Vorex said, addressing the assembled human leadership, "there is a question that our council needs answered, not for the terms of our agreement, but for our understanding." President Adama nodded. "Ask." At any point in the past 70 years, you could have revealed your true capabilities. You could have demanded recognition rather than requested it. Why maintain the deception for so long? Why continue seeking peaceful integration when you possessed the power to force it? Elena Chen answered, "Because that's not who we choose to be, Chancellor. Humanity has a long, painful history of conflict among ourselves. We've learned through bitter experience that power without restraint leads to destruction, that victory through domination is ultimately hollow." She gestured to the document before them. "We developed our capabilities not because we wanted war, but because we understood that true peace comes from mutual respect. We continue to pursue diplomatic solutions because we genuinely wanted the partnership the Concord claimed to offer." "Even knowing we planned to subjugate you?" asked the representative of the arachnid hierarchy. General Takashi stepped forward. "Strategic patience, delegate. We gave you every opportunity to recognize us as equals. When our intelligence uncovered your true intentions years ago, we could have struck immediately. Instead, we continued to extend our hand while preparing our fist, hoping you would eventually grasp the former and never need to feel the latter." The signing proceeded in solemn silence. When it was complete, Chancellor Vorex addressed the human representatives once more. "The day humans abandoned peace, the universe indeed trembled," he acknowledged. "But perhaps the greater lesson is how long and how sincerely you pursued it before doing so." In the years that followed, the galaxy underwent a transformation. The Concord evolved from a dominating force into a true cooperative of species. Human ingenuity and technological innovation, no longer hidden, accelerated development across dozens of worlds. The parallel jump gate network that humanity had built in secret became the foundation for a new era of interstellar commerce and exploration. And throughout it all, Earth maintained its strategic principle, always extending a hand in peace, always prepared for those who might mistake patience for weakness. On the anniversary of the reckoning, Ambassador Elena Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the reformed Galactic Concord, stood at a viewport on Avalon Station, looking out at the stars. The station had been rebuilt, redesigned as a true meeting place of equals rather than a symbol of Concord dominance. 70 years of patience, 3 days of action, and the galaxy changed forever, said a voice behind her. High Chancellor Vorex, who had remained in his position through the transition, joined her at the viewport. "We're still learning from you," he admitted. "The concept of strategic restraint, having power and choosing not to use it, was foreign to us. For millennia, the Concord exercised every advantage it possessed." Elena smiled. "There's an old human saying, Chancellor, speak softly and carry a big stick. The mistake many make is focusing too much on the stick and not enough on speaking softly." "A mistake we won't make again," Vorex assured her. "Though I must confess, many in the Concord still wonder just how big humanity's stick truly is. You've continued to maintain certain, strategic ambiguities." Elena's smile deepened slightly. "Some things are better left to the imagination, Chancellor. After all, peace thrives best when nurtured by both trust and healthy respect." As they looked out at the stars together, the lesson of humanity's 70-year patience and 3-day demonstration of power continued to resonate across the galaxy. The day humans abandoned peace, the universe had indeed trembled. But in doing so, they had ultimately created a more stable and equal peace than the galaxy had ever known. The most powerful weapon in humanity's arsenal had never been their hidden fleets or secret technology. It had been their willingness to pursue peace until absolutely, undeniably proven futile, and their readiness to demonstrate, with surgical precision, exactly why that was a line no species should ever force them to cross.